This is Run the Day with Rafe
and Tay.
We're runners, we're married, and now we've got a podcast. Why? Because we love running so much that we wanted to share it with you, our friends.
Today's topic, we're going to recap our half marathon race that we ran yesterday, and we're going to talk about what went well and what did not in terms of traveling and all the logistics on race day.
Yeah, we want you to listen to this episode. We want to, as runners, talk about our races just a little bit and show how that could help you when you compete. And also so you could learn from some of the few, mistakes we would make.
Or lessons.
And then also I think we'll throw in there too a little bit of our mindset that we had kind of before the race, during the race, and afterwards. So this was our third half marathon. We've been training, third half marathon within 1 year, and also pretty symbolic to us because this was the first half marathon, the same race that we ran last year. So we went from first half marathon to this is our third one yesterday.
Yep. So for the first time we ran it a year ago in October 2022, that was our first time ever completing the distance. So our mindset for that race was just to accomplish running the half marathon race. And obviously we wanted to run it in a decent time, but it was just a proud moment to be able to complete the race. And having a year later, yesterday, October 2023, it was cool to actually want to complete it in a time goal instead of just the distance, which I think was a cool perspective to have. I feel like going into this race, I wasn't intimidated by the distance this time.
What do I want from you? Give me, so it's 2022 first half marathon. I want you to give me one word to describe how you felt pre-race.
Pre-race for October 2022, I think I felt very...
One word.
I know, I'm trying to think of one word. Maybe inspired.
And then this one?
I felt confident.
Nice.
Yeah, what about you?
I was trying to think of the word like unknown was kind of my first one. I don't know, there's probably a better word, but it felt like a mystery. I kind of was like, I know I said one word. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yes.
Whatever word describes that.
Fear?
Mysterious, yeah. Maybe fear. And then, this one, I was going to use confident as well.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so how should we start?
I think we should start and just discuss our races a little bit.
Yeah.
So we can kind of build off of one another. Let's break it down into segments. I could kick off and then you tell me. Something off the bat that I learned from and that I really implemented was to not go out so hard the first mile or so of it. So this race is like the first mile was pretty, or not first mile, but the first part of the race is downhill. And I'm sure maybe you witnessed too, like all of these runners next to you are like sprinting, and it is so easy to sprint with them because you like your competitive nature to like not let people pass you
or go with the crowd.
Exactly. It kind of makes you feel like, oh wow, I guess I'm like not doing, but it's like, the phrase like it's a marathon, not a sprint. I feel like this was my first half being like, okay, this first mile is just a feeler of kind of like, let's get the body warm. But what about you?
Yeah, I felt like I really was trying to run my own race. I knew exactly what pace I wanted to run, whereas flashback to a year ago, I followed along with a pace group, and I was like, all right, just stick with this group. They're going to lead me to around the time I want. This time was like all on myself.
Yeah. And that's same. I forgot that I was with a pace group last year, and this one was a solo one. So it's a little bit of a different experience. Okay, so, we're past a mile in, and I think, from my standpoint, my mind started to wander a little bit early of those like ups and downs, where this was a race for the first like half of it where I felt like I had moments where I was like, damn, I'm in really good shape. And then I had moments where I was like, wow, I'm like really tired. And as we start to weave in some of the mantras and stuff we use during this race, something we've talked about on a previous podcast and that I said to you that I heard Eliud Kipchoge talking about was vitamin N.
Yeah.
And it's just the N is for no. So just telling yourself like, no. Because there was a lot of moments where I was like, I thought this exact thing. I was like, I could ease off. I could go into the podcast later and just say, it wasn't my day. And like, no one will really care. And I was like, why do I have this thought process right now? Like, I've been busting my ass. We both have for this race. Like, it's vitamin no. Like, I'm not listening to that.
Yep. I think because your body or your mind wants to go into what's comfortable and you were uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually used the vitamin N mantra that you spoke about, which I wasn't expecting to before the race. I thought about the mantras that I want to remind myself for when times get tough. Yep. I prepared my mind for it. And actually that one came to mind during the race when I didn't even expect it to. Yep. So that was pretty cool because that was something that was helping you. And then it just all of a sudden helped me when I was like, oh, this is getting a little uncomfortable. And I was like, nope, vitamin N. Like, no, just keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah, I think this was our first race of like having the proper experience of like everything going into it, that I think we understood how to run our own race in a lot of different facets. So like one thing that I thought benefited us, and we don't have to get off on a tangent of it, was just like having our own water bottle and like carrying that, like not having to worry when we're going to the water stations. I remember last year hitting a point where I was like dependent on taking a gel when I saw the stations, or dependent on drinking water when I saw the stations. And this time, like I knew my marks. Like I've learned from my body of like when to take a gel, which for me was like every like 3.2 miles is just when I feel like my body needs it. So I just had the gels ready and I had my water ready. So I feel like some of that eased my mind, because I remember running last year and being at kind of the 3 mile mark and be like, I'm not going to be able to complete this race. Like I actually think I'm going to need to stop. Yeah.
And you were kind of dependent on the race offering you the water and offering you the gels, but this time you had it with yourself. Like you were more prepared.
Yeah. And I remember I took the gel last year and I was like, whoa, I got like new life. I didn't realize these like gels do this. And we did this for the second half marathon, but again, we did it for this one. And I do think it's super beneficial. And maybe if you're a new runner, it's not talked about enough, is that your fueling strategy of like gelling is important, but also something I don't feel like was told to us that I didn't realize is to take one before you start. Yeah. So like take one 10 minutes before the race or 5 minutes before the race to get that energy into your body, because otherwise that's what happened to me last year, is you get depleted at mile 3 and then you're like, oh, here's the gels. And it's like, I wish I had that. All right, we're like a few miles past in the race. I feel like everything's going well. We're running through, downtown Hartford. It's a nice area. There's like some older gentlemen playing in a band. I feel like the crowds were awesome. I slapped a sign that said like power up for like the Mario mushroom, which I was really like, that's such a good sign. And I actually mid race ran into one of my friends we met from our running club in this area, which was kind of cool. Right. And, we shared like a moment there where he's like, oh, I missed the sign. So I kind of high-fived him to give him the power up as well. And it's like those moments with like the crowd and some of the runners there, that just makes you feel like, whoa, this is such a cool sport. Because I think maybe you felt the same way. I let myself take my guard down a little bit this year, where I didn't have to be so serious 24/7. Like I remember last year we were running in a pack and I was like, I'm not communicating with anyone here. Like I'm focused, like silence, and it's just like super hard. But this time, like,
you embraced it.
Yeah, it was like, high-fiving some people from the crowds when it came up, like cheering with them. I was like pointing at the photographers. I was like, this is what it's supposed to be. Like you train obviously to do well, but we train to have fun. And we paid money to run this race. I'm going to have fun during this race.
Yeah, I think I could relate to that, because when I saw like the crowd and like the audience, or not audience, just like the spectators along like the sides of the road cheering, they weren't necessarily cheering for like me, Taylor, Ann, but they were still like very enthusiastic. And when you kind of like gave them a thumbs up or like smiled at them, they would almost like cheer you on even more, specifically for you. It was really cool, because it's just nice to have so many people be supportive. And I think this is one of the first, out of all 3 half marathons, that we didn't have like family or friends there specifically to cheer for us. So it was nice to kind of learn to energize yourself and look out in the crowd and get energy from everyone else. I thought that was really nice. And then there was definitely some points in the race where you got very siloed. There was nobody, no crowds, no audience. And during those moments, I'm just curious like what your thought process was when it was just you and the other runners and there were no spectators.
Yeah, I feel like we were like, I don't remember the exact moments, but we were definitely like halfway through the race. And I was like, cool, I feel confident. I could do this again. And my intention was to go faster the second half of my race because I wanted to negative split, which I've never done before. And we went from being in like downtown Hartford, downtown city, to, I swear, like this might sound dramatized, but I feel like we were just in the middle of nowhere. It was just like we were just running on like the like outskirts of like a highway exit, and then we were running through a park through a later part of it. And it was just for at least for me, it was me and this other guy next to me. And I went up to this guy after the race, as you advised me to, because without him, I don't know what I would have felt, because it could have felt like an apocalypse out there. There was no spectators. There was no one. And
so the pace you were running, there was nobody else around except for you and this other guy? Yeah,
I would say for like a quarter mile and behind us and like a half mile in front of us, there was no one. So we're like really in our own bubble. So, I think it was beneficial to like kind of work off of someone else. And me and this guy did not say a word to one another during the race, but it's that like unspoken thing of like, all right, come on, like let's work together. And that's what one of like these spectators ended up cheering. Like later on was like, come on guys, work together. And I'm like, oh yeah, like that's true. Like let's like feed off of one another.
I love that.
Because otherwise, I think looking back now, it's kind of cool because you had those moments where the crowd can fuel you, and then you have those moments where it's like it has to come from yourself. It has to come from your training and your own mental toughness and fortitude. And that's like the beautiful part of running that we love, is that there's like so many different ways to try to inspire yourself, and it always can't be dependent on a crowd.
Yeah, something that actually I think helped energize myself in those moments where maybe I didn't have someone else to fuel me with like energy or to help me get through it, was I thought about some of the training workouts that we did, specifically the like long run that we did, and they would incorporate tempo like workouts in between. So it would be like a 13-mile run, and you did maybe like 4 miles easy, and then the rest of it, or maybe the middle part, was your half marathon goal pace. Then you did easy, and we did quite a few of those. And I remember doing them for, I think the longest one we did maybe was like 7 miles. So when we got to a certain point in the race, I was like, I've done this before. And today is like race day. Like I'm at a good peak. So that helped give me some confidence in those moments where I was like by myself or didn't have anyone to kind of feed energy to me. I had to like deep down and find something in myself to help me get through it. So reflecting back on our training, do you feel like this training cycle helped prepare you the most? Or do you feel like you just like the experience?
I've never felt better in a race than this one. I've never felt more like fit during a race.
What do you think it was?
I think it's the training, and I think it's also like we understand this race now. After doing it twice beforehand, I feel like I understand a little bit how to run it. Like, the main thing that was on my mind, the main like talk of self-doubt the first time was like, I don't know if I can run, 13.1 miles. Yeah. Like I actually don't know what it feels like. And then the second time it was like, all right, learn from the first time. And there was different obstacles with that. And like, I blew up like mile 8 or 9. I just couldn't do it. So then you come into this third race where it's like, okay, be strategic. The first half of it, you start to feel good and go. And then to really focus on like those miles, like for me, it was like 9 through 12 are just like, damn, like it's tough. But I think that it's similar to when we've ran even races on a track. And I know I was talking to you about this, is that like I feel
I noticed that too. Sometimes I look down at my watch. I'm like, okay, I need to pick it up a little bit. And you keep going this consistent pace, going up hills, down hills. It was a lot hillier than I expected. Yeah. So when you realize I need to pick it up a little bit, what do you like physically, or what are you doing like actually with your body to pick it up? Because just to say to run faster, like what does that actually mean when you're in the middle of the race? Like what are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, it's first like silencing that voice that's saying something, that don't listen to it and move on. And then I think it's knowing one, it's trusting your training for the fact that when you line up on race day, there's nothing else to do. There's nothing you could do in that moment to change like race day. Like you've prepped yourself for it. All that's going to come with it is just like your mental fortitude. So it's really the mental game. But in terms of what to action on physically, I think it's to know what your strengths are as a runner. So for me, I know I'm not great uphill. So something I've taught myself is to like really get choppy uphill. So like my stride starts to decrease in length a lot, and I really just think about picking up my knees and taking really short strides, because I have a tendency to overstride, which is going to fatigue me on a hill, because the hill is going to be a sprint exercise then. It's like I'm going to be running hill repeat sprints. So to get choppier with that, and to just stay within kind of the range. And then I know downhill, I'm good downhill. Yeah. So like downhill, I press it a little bit, and then you start to just level out. So, again, these are all strategies, and I'm curious what you think. But I remember the pacer last year was speaking us during the race, and his opinion or his thought process was like he likes to stay in like a little bubble he creates for himself. So he goes uphill at the same pace, he goes downhill at the same pace, he's on the flat at the same pace. And I think if that works for you, that works for you. For me, it was more of a mind game of like, okay, get up this hill, just get up it. And then once we get up it, we know the next step, and the next step's just to push it a little bit more downhill. And that's what works for me.
Like leaning into your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. But what about you? Do you feel like you had those moments of like where you had to make like a decision?
Yeah, for sure. So I think sometimes I look at my watch and I'm like, okay, I need to pick it up a little bit. And, that happens, I think, maybe in the middle of each mile. And to physically pick up the pace, even though I felt like I'm pushing myself as much as I can, I would just think about getting my turnover quicker. So just taking more steps. So try to get your feet to touch the ground a little bit quicker, a little bit quicker, a little bit quicker. And then all of a sudden you're in a different pace. You're going a little bit quicker. So it's tough, but just focus on like 20 seconds of just putting your feet down to the ground as quick as you can, and just faster turnover. And then you'll pick up the pace a little bit. And then you get comfortable into that and you're back in the zone. So that helped me a lot.
I was thinking that too. I remember when we went to the like Ridgefield running store, what the woman kind of told me that works there, which I always think about now, is just like, I know I have weak hips, and I have a tendency to kind of let my like hips drag behind me. So like I always try to think about my hips forward, and that helps me, my stride just become stronger and more efficient. So the thing that I do that she advised is just I think about where you would wear a belt, just feeling that like pressed forward. So like where a belt buckle would lie, of just kind of like, pushing that through your hips. And every time I do that, it makes me feel like I'm like arching my back, but I'm not arching my back. I'm just running proper. Yeah. And like that helps me.
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like we talk a lot about the mental aspect of how to push through during a race, but I think when it comes to the physical, it's really focusing on your form. Like when you really need to like physically like push your body a little bit quicker, what you can actually do is just focus on your form.
Yeah. And so let's move on. We're in the later stages of the race.
And again, there was a lot more hills than I thought. It was a lot of rolling. It was better than last year, because last year had like giant hills, sporadic. Yep. This one was a lot of rolling, which I thought was good to change it up. Our muscles got to all be worked instead of just staying flat and just consistently using the same muscles and getting a little fatigued. What kind of got you through the last few miles to get to the finish? And did you ever look at your watch to see what time you were at?
No.
You just kept going, or did you look at your pace?
I roughly knew, because I set the range, which like if you have a running watch, I would, everyone should do is I kind of set a range on my watch of like from 6:10 to like 6:25 of like, I got to be in this spot here. So I knew after each mile kind of where I was at. But coming into those last few miles, like I had like my 3 fastest miles previous to that. And I knew, I was like, this is where it's real. I either lose the race here by falling off the pace, or I have a PR by, sticking with it. So honestly, what kept me going is one thing is just like breaking the race into small segments, if like get to this point and then let's worry about how we feel at this point. And then just keep doing that over and over again. But honestly, the silliest thing that got me through it is that I was thinking about, I worked at Saucony, and like one of our athletes is Grayson Murphy, and she does this whole like airplane arms thing through the finish line. And I was like, know what? I'm having fun during this race. I want to get to that finish line, and I want to do the airplane arms. Yeah. And I was just looking forward to the moment because I knew what the finish line kind of straightaway looked like. And it's like this nice, like kind of road that's filled with all these flowers and the archway, and everyone's there cheering for you. I'm just like, I just want to get to this point, and then I'm celebrating. Yeah. So I kept thinking about that moment of just the excitement of getting to that moment. I like that. What about you?
Yeah, I think
because we were in the middle of nowhere at this part. We were in some random park.
Yeah, it was towards a park, and then you got to run along the water, and that was very hilly. So what kind of got me through it was similar to you, focusing on how I'd feel at the end. And then I was like, these are the miles that matter the most, and honestly, they were the hardest for me. Mile 11 and 12, I think, were my slowest miles, which lesson learned. I should have used another gel towards the end. I took one before the race at mile 4, at mile 8, and I wish I took one around mile 10. I think I really could have used it because my last 13th mile was just running with my heart and just ran as fast. That was my best, or one of my better miles. So definitely that was a lesson learned. So just focusing on how I'd feel at the end. And when I saw the clock, because it had the timer, I actually saw the time, and it was like an hour, 20 minutes or whatever. And I thought about you finishing, and I was like, oh my gosh, Rafe is about to cross the finish line. Like, he's so close. Like, thinking about you finishing and then how close I am, that's what kind of got me through it. It was like the reward after. And if I keep pushing through this, it will be worth it. And I'll be so happy. And I just have to make my future self proud that I did it, Yeah. Because it really, you just want to give up. Yeah. But something that I actually watched before the race was, I love this mini David Goggins interview. And he talks about how your body can keep going, but your mind wants to give up because it doesn't like the pain. It just wants to stop it. So you have to just get control over it and calm it. So as we're going through these little miles, up and down, through mile 11 and a half, mile 12, I was just thinking, calm your mind. Just calm it. Yeah. Because it's starting to go out of control. This is really, really hard. Yeah. This is really hard. And I'm not hitting pace. And I just was trying to calm the mind. Just focus on being calm. You're almost there. And future Tay is going to be so happy when she crosses the line and sees that time. So that's what I focused on at the end of the race.
Yes. Sometimes what I do, to stay present when I'm my mind's starting to wander, is it sounds so stupid, but I just as I'm running, I'm just step, 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 step. I'm just every time I step, just doing that. And then I'm I start to get bored of saying step. And then I'm what was I worried about? And I was oh, I totally forgot.
Yeah. So that's actually funny because that's how I got through the second half marathon we did in Newport. Maybe because I used to do dance, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I would count my steps per 8 count of the pace I wanted to get through, because at that time that was really tough for me. So it's interesting that we both kind of did something similar.
So I want to share. I'm at about mile 12.8, 12.9, right? And God, I feel so damn slow, despite me looking at my watch, and I'm wow, this is going to be my fastest mile. But it felt like I was moving in quicksand is what I could, best to describe it. My muscles were just fatigued respiratory wise. I'm ready for this to be done. Yeah. And that home stretch of getting to that final straightaway that I was talking about felt so far. I was God, can we just get to this point? So we're pulling up on it, and it's you're coming around a turn to get to this point. And some dude out of nowhere, I didn't see him the entire race, decides to pass me. And I'm oh no, this guy's going to mess up my moment here with this photo. So I said to Tay, I've probably never looked more of a douchebag. And we haven't gotten the photos back yet, but I hope we get these in here. But from my background of being a sprinter, I'm my finish, I'm always going to sprint past and finish hard. So we get to the straightaway. I'm I'm toasting this guy right now. So I start sprinting.
And he's sprinting as well. He's sprinting to the finish.
I don't know if he started sprinting once he saw me pass him, because he passed me and he's oh, I got this guy. Yeah. And then I just come out of nowhere I'm moving it.
Was the crowd cheering loud?
Yeah, and the guy's Rafi, saying my name wrong again. So I was I want to get my moment here with the airplane arms. So I run past this guy, and then I start airplane arming 50 meters. I did it way too early. I was airplane arming for honestly 50 meters. And I was like, this guy probably thinks I'm such a douchebag. Like, I just passed him and then I'm celebrating through the line. And I was like, no, like, this was my intention. From this guy just decided to make his move on me so late. But
you were celebrating your race. You weren't celebrating passing him.
But from everyone else, it probably looked like, I passed him and I was just like, suck it. But we haven't gotten these photos back yet. But geez, I really hope that I got a photo doing that celebration.
Rafe always gets the best race day photos. Mine are never good. Never. He always gets great pictures.
Well, I know that last straightaway, I'm going to give it my all. But, what also happens is that I finish my race, I get the space blanket and the medal, and I'm like, now I have to jog to see Taylor Ann finish. So I had way more energy after the race than I have in any other race.
That's good. You probably just felt like the adrenaline. You were just so happy.
Yeah, so I jogged over and I saw you.
Yes, it was so cool to be coming around the corner. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so tough. But then I heard I heard you calling my name.
Yeah. So I had different things that I was like, oh, I'm gonna say to Tay while she's running. But once you come up, it's just like,
yeah, you're just like, go Tay.
Say whatever comes to your mind.
You're almost there. I literally remember I looked at you and I'm like, oh my God, this is so painful. I think it was mile 12 was my slowest mile. Then
tough because you're too far from the finish to really kick. But
yeah, again, lesson learned. I'm going to take a gel next time around mile 10, I think, or 10 and a half.
So my gels was 3.2, 6.4, and 10.
I did before the race, like you did, 4, 8, and then technically you wouldn't really need one if you were doing 4 miles at a time, but I think I really could have used another. But the problem also experienced was I felt a little nauseous. Yeah. When I took my gel at mile 8, I was like, if I keep eating this, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Mm-hmm. And I am known to have a very queasy stomach during races. I don't know why. It's something I have to look into. And I've practiced taking this gel before, so many times, drinking water and everything. Yeah. But sorry, not to get off on a tangent. That's okay. Yeah, this was just a really awesome third time's a charm kind of thing. So it was really cool because we both ran new personal bests, and it was a really great experience. I think we learned so much, and it's nice to feel confident this time going into it.
Yeah. I'm proud of us. We've personal best every time we've ran this distance. And from last year to this year, I improved by around 6 or 7 minutes, and you improved by what, 11?
Yeah, 11.
So, those are big jumps. So at least for me, every time we've ran a half, I think I've gone about 3 to 4 minutes faster each time.
Yep, that's huge. I think that shows that we definitely take our lessons seriously, and we reflect and do an after action report like David Goggins taught us. And we always think about it seriously and then implement it. Yep. I think that's the best way to get better at running. So in terms of lessons that we learned, I think something we should touch upon is the experience we had with the logistics. Mm-hmm. Because this time we kind of made a few mistakes, which in the past we've been very good about. Yep. Race day logistics and the travel, we've always been very good about it. Yep. So Rafe, why don't you because it's pretty comical what happened, and hopefully you could take away some lessons.
Yeah, we won't bore you guys with all the details, but just get your bib sent to you. It's just way easier
if you're out of state.
Because we had to do the pickup the night before, and we live in the Boston area. Hartford's here, and then where we're from is further south of there. So we traveled down to Hartford the night before to get our bib. There's a ton of traffic, as always with anything with Boston, which is just so annoying. We get the bib, you have to figure out where to park, and then we're trying to eat as we're driving home.
Because we got back later, because we got there later than expected, because we were going to plan to eat, your race, the pre-race dinner that you have planned. Then that went out the window. So you're trying to stay calm and find alternatives.
Yeah, we had a greasy chicken parm from this place that Tay ordered pickup, and it was just running way behind. So, and then I'm frustrated in the car trying to eat a chicken parm sandwich as I'm driving. I spill a piece of it on my sweatpants.
And
I was like,
I'm
I'm just so done with this.
And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, we were supposed to have like a pasta for like dinner and like carb load properly, and
eat some garlic knots and a chicken parm hero.
It worked, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it worked. So we get home late. We say hi to Tay's family for about 2 minutes at that.
It was nice that they let us stay. We saved a lot of money on not buying, paying for a hotel.
If you're going to get your hotels, do it well in advance because they jack the rates up and it is so astronomical that like a lot of the race venues will have like preferred hotels and like
which will be
discounted
discounted
rates. So just take advantage of those if you do it. Just make it easier for yourself. It's worth the investment. Right. But anyway, we stay there. We wake up at 5 a.m. The race starts at 8. We're like, this gives us plenty of time. And
we had avocado toast for breakfast.
As typical runners experience, all you want to do is just use the bathroom before driving and before racing. So trying to make that happen delays us a little bit. You get to, I think we left around, I don't even know, 6:15, 6:10.
I think it was earlier than that.
Anyway, we drive up to Hartford, which is about an hour drive. It's like 7 something.
You have to think about the road closures.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of traffic. And then getting into the parking garage is a disaster. You're waiting in line forever. There's like one random man checking in people at this garage. There was no automation. It was just some dude sitting at a booth. And we were sitting there forever. A woman who was in front of us, her Tesla died right in front of the like entrance to the garage. And
there was like traffic all the way. And I will say the race is so well organized. They listed out like 20 different parking options. And we just picked the wrong one. I was like, we'll just pick this one. It's looks like it's on the way. It's close to the finish area. Like we'll just pick this garage. Yeah, they do free parking or event parking for like $5 for the whole day. We just picked the wrong garage. It was just our luck. So, everyone picked that one, I guess.
That was a little stressful. And then you got to like get all these little things done of like putting like the electrolyte mix into our water bottles, getting our running shoes on, putting our bib on, like making sure you have all the gels. So anyway, we are like, I don't know, there's like 30 minutes probably before the race at this point.
We were really doing our best to stay calm. I think that I was a lot more calm than Rafe was. I think because I could tell he was stressed, so I channeled like, okay, he's stressed, so I need to be the calm one. And yeah, of course, you have to, be a team. If we were both stressed and panicked, it would not have gone well. So we jogged over. We're like, let's use the bathroom first, the porta potty line, because those lines are always extremely long. So we jog over, wait in line. That took up like the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, again, all you want to do is that like, I from my perspective, I'm like, I cannot run this race without using the bathroom right now. Mm-hmm. Like I physically will not be able to do it.
Right. And of course there's always porta potties along the race, but we didn't have intentions to want to stop.
No, I'm not stopping.
No. So after we wait in line to do that, we're like, okay, we need to now go warm up. And
this is like 10 minutes before the race
exactly
starts.
10 minutes.
And like our warm up probably should be like 15 minutes. You should bank 15 minutes of time, but like we're just going to have to rush this.
I think what helped us was that we jogged to the porta potties. We waited, obviously. And then we jogged all the way to where the start was. And we then started to warm up. So we did jog a decent amount of time in sweatshirts, in sweatpants. So I was sweating before we even started warming up. Maybe our heart was pounding a little bit.
Yeah, that's probably just the anxiety.
Yeah, so we
coming out of my body.
We warmed up, and we quickly, take off our sweatpants, sweatshirts. Rafe can't get his sweatpants over his shoe.
I never warmed up in these pants before.
He is a disaster right now.
I never wore these pants prior, and they did not. Most of these like track pants, zip up, and you can get them like over your shoes. My shoes were tied, and they were not getting over my shoes.
So we finally put everything in a clear bag that the race provided for us. I sprint over to the gear check, gave it to them because Rafe is just panicked. So I just grabbed it and I sprinted over. And then there's a bunch of different corrals, so different groups of the different paces, and your babe will tell you which corral you are in. And we were both in the same corral, so I felt very good.
But the downside was that it's like elite corral. It's A, which we were, B, C, whatever. So we have to run through like all these people.
And then there's an
in
open.
The corral.
There's also open. So if you weren't in a corral.
Open, yeah. So we have to maneuver through all these people. You kind of seem like an asshole because it's like, all right, buddy, like calm down. But it's like we're just late.
There's exactly 4 minutes we had to get to exactly where we need to start.
Yeah, so we get to the point, finally, like maneuver through all of it to get into our spots. And like the gun or the countdown went off maybe 20 seconds after I was standing there.
I think I got to my spot, and how we found our spot was I looked for the pace groups. I wasn't running with one, but I found out where people were going to be running around the pace I'd be doing. So I looked for a certain sign, and I was like, okay, I kind of want to run around that group. So I moved over and kind of found that spot. How did you find out like where to?
You just know. You just move up.
You just moved all the way up.
Yeah. But I mean, downside was a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress of the fear of potentially spending all this money to run this race and to not even get to run it, or to have to maneuver through, 7,000 people to get to the spot you should have started at in the first few miles, which is just going to gas you out. So it all worked out. The positive to it, I would say, was that, your pre-race like jitters as you're on the line, kind of like shaking your legs and like thinking, there was none of that because it was just like, oh, all right, we're running.
And we stayed warm. Also, I think that I'm proud of myself, I will say, because I really channeled to be calm. Finding my spot, I just, smiled and said, excuse me, and I found my spot, and I was like, we got time. Like, I got like 2 minutes. Like, I got this. I think I stood there for like a full minute.
Yeah, mine was
Took a deep breath.
Definitely under a minute. So one of the person I bumped into was like, dude, I didn't even see you on the starting line. I was like, because I was on the starting line for maybe 40 seconds.
Hey, at least we were warm and ready to go.
Yeah, we were ready to go. So anyway, lesson learned, prepare yourself for your race. Maybe stay at the hotel the night before. Really plan out your morning. And
we were
the pants
laughing.
I wore, make sure your pants can fit over your shoes.
Or you just take your shoes off. That's what I did. Rafe was like trying to rip his pants off, and I was like, just took mine, put the shoe back on. You have to stay calm in those moments. Yeah. Do your best to just channel calm.
Yeah. So I think that's our race. We're both super happy with our times.
Our performance.
Yeah.
Mentality we had.
I ran I think it was a 1:23:53 or something. And what'd you run?
I ran a 1:36:28.
Nice, which is big personal best for us. So I ran this last year, the same race, and ran a 1:29:17 or something. And you were what?
Last year?
1:47?
Yeah, I ran a 1:47.
So 11-minute PR, which is huge.
In 7 minutes for you?
I think it's like 6, but still
huge.
Still good. So anyway, we are both super happy, truthfully, to be really honest with you, to be done running for a little bit, to take a little break. I think when you're at the end of a training block, this one more than any other one, the week before the race, we were both just like, damn, I just want to get this over with. And the excitement to actually run the race didn't really come until the day before. We were more
which is kind
dreading
of surprising. I think in the past we've been excited, like leading up to the race, like I can't wait. This time I'm like, I'm kind of ready to do this and just do it and then take a nice break.
Yeah, so take your breaks because burnout mentally, physically, it is a real thing. So Tay and I can discuss, and we're our own people. We can make our own choices. I'm not running for around 2 weeks. Like I'm not going outside and running, and I don't think I'm going to race for the rest of the year. If there's like a turkey trot, I'll jog it with family, but like my legs need a break. So I'm happy with this year of 2023. I PR'd in the mile, I PR'd in the 5K, I PR'd in the half. I am ready to take a break and to deprioritize running a little bit, which I know sounds weird for a running podcast, but like you need to do that because running has trumped so much other stuff that Taya and I are like, wow, we could like actually go out maybe on like a Friday and get like a drinks with people and not have to worry about doing a long run in the morning, or like we can live our lives and start to put a little bit more of our attention or focus on other things for a little bit, and then welcome running back into the level that we think's appropriate in that time.
Yes, I think what you're trying to really say is that when you're training for a race, it's a big commitment if you take it as serious as you want to take it. And I think I will probably run a little bit. I'm definitely going to give my body a break, but if I go for a run, it's definitely for just the mental aspect or just to like I don't know, get outside. It's definitely not to train for something, which has a definitely like a different mentality. Yeah. So taking a nice break of like the training, you know.
Take your breaks.
So we did get a few questions when we posted about it earlier this week, and thank you for submitting questions. So one question that we got is, do you listen to music while you race? And we got that over Instagram. So the answer for both of us is no. We don't listen to music while we race. A lot of people do. A ton of people around us had headphones in. Yep. It's just something that we don't do.
Yeah, it's dependent on the person. You know, I hate to generalize anything, but I would advise that you don't.
I think you can listen to your body, what you need, how you feel a lot better.
Yeah, I know it feels. I think the music, in terms of some people that I saw talking about before the start of the race, the people listen to music, it's really nice and rewarding to have it for about 3 miles until you go out way too hard and burn yourself. And regardless of if you're listening to the most intense motivational music, if you have emptied your tank, it is not going to bring your tank back. So that's my personal opinion with music, is that I think it gives me too much distraction to not understand like my race strategy and my pacing. I'm going to go out too hard and I'm going to burn out.
Yeah, I think just if you are interested in trying to not race with music, just when you're training, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that will definitely help you.
Or, you know, like, I don't know, I've never owned those shocks, but like maybe you could wear those, but like I just put the volume low. Yeah. So you can be in tune with yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, even like hearing your cadence, hearing your breathing, and honestly, I think for enjoying the ambiance that is a race, when people are cheering for you, it's almost a discredit to the race and the whole thing that you signed up for, to not really be present and hear people cheering, or, you know, to hear the atmosphere of the race. Mm-hmm. So I don't like running with music. Yes. Racing. Running, sometimes I do.
That's just our thoughts. Okay, and then one other question we got is, how do you find races to sign up for in your area?
It's a good question. Well, you can answer.
Okay, I can answer it. A really popular site that I look into is the Run Sign Up website. And honestly, I just Google races near me. Or if I know I'm going to be running in December, races near me 2023, like anything like that. I just honestly Google it. And usually a lot of the races that we've done have been through Run Sign Up. But there's also a lot of different websites that list all the different websites. That, like, I mean, there's also websites that list out all the different races, and you can categorize it by like the state or the time or the distance. And that's kind of how I do it. Just Google.
Yeah, I think when you find an organization that you like that runs one, they typically offer other races. So like HMF ran this one, and they run others within the tri-state area. Or like Boston has BAA, you know.
Yep. Rhode Island has road races, yeah. RHODE.
I'm sure, sometimes the better the organization, the more money it costs. But, Tay and I realized in this one, like, it's worth the money. This Hartford half marathon, and there's also a charity 5K, I think, is so well ran that every time we want to run in this time frame of fall, I will pick this race, because it's so impressive how they put things together. And even if it costs a little bit more, it's worth it, because we've ran races before where it's not organized well. The course is not really thoughtfully designed. Yes. So again, I know shelling out the little extra cash might seem frustrating at the time, but a well-organized race is going to make you run a better race. So, all right. Well, hey, we're going to try to be back and better. A lot of things were happening, life things, and a bunch of details we don't have to bore you with. But we are always here for you, and we believe in you guys, and we appreciate everyone listening. So if you can, this is our little plug, our little reminder to follow us on all of our socials, Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, all of that stuff, to give a 5-star rating, to submit a question, to submit a shout out, and to tell your friend to listen to Run the Day. So Tay, take it away.
Go run the day. Don't let the day run you.
Peace out, motherfucker.